Hey guys, welcome to a new video. It's going to be a video on equipment, which is something that I've found that people do wrong a lot. So I figured, well, I did a video on settings, why not do a video on equipment since that's also very important. So by equipment, I obviously mean this stuff here, which you should have on all high-tier vehicles. Now, a lot of people don't really understand, I suppose, what equipment is really useful. Some people do things for convenience and other things. Now, a common thing you see is like CAMO net and BINOCS, and people put those on because, well, the CAMO net is cheap, but I guess because you can demount them for no gold. This is okay early on, but you really need to get out of that habit later. I know it does cost gold, but it's only 10 gold to demount if you want to demount equipment. If you're going to keep the tank, even better, you can leave the equipment on. But it's also why it's important to get it right in the first place, I suppose. But, you know, 10 gold is really not that much. You can get 10 gold or little bits of amounts of gold all the time. Wargaming's doing all kinds of things that allow you to, you know, get these like through bonus codes and things like that. I mean, even like small bonus codes like 250 gold. I mean, you know, you can have more than enough equipment for this stuff. I mean, crew training is far more expensive than equipment, so it is important to put equipment on your high-tier vehicles. It's also important to make sure you know what equipment you're putting on and why you're putting it on, and what it does. Now, a lot of you will say, you know, when you're first starting, you're getting your first tier 7s, your first tier 8s. You might think, oh, well, it's really expensive to buy, you know, these equipments. I mean, they're half off at the moment, which, you know, great events. If you buy them when they're half off, please do so. You don't have to wait until they're on your tank either to buy it. You can go into the store and you can buy extra, and then there's a stockpile to put on future tanks. But it's really important that you get the right equipment. Even if it is expensive, you know, take the time to save it up, because in the long run it will save you money. Because if you have a rammer, you have stabilizers and things like this, it makes your tank more effective, and you're gonna make more credits in battles because your tank is more effective. It's so important to put equipment on. I can't stress it enough, and to get the right equipment. I see a lot of people with the wrong equipment as well, so hopefully this video will help you. Right, so now that that's out of the way, there are basically 4 pieces of equipment that you will almost always be the ones you're using, and there are 2 that are always the ones you should basically be using, assuming you can mount them. Not all tanks can mount the same amounts of types of equipment, so you want to check that too. So those equipment pieces are the rammer, vertical stabilizer, improved ventilation, and coated optics. So it just depends on the tank. The one you want to switch in and out will be the coated optics and vents most of the time. Autoloaders cannot mount a rammer, so you know, in that case you don't have to worry about it. So basically, this video is going to be explaining why these are the best. I mean, the rammer's pretty, I mean, 10% off your reload time. I don't really need to stress too much about why that's important. Some people like to go really meta and take it off on really fast reload tanks. Don't do that. I don't think that's a good idea ever. You want to maximize DPM if you get a good reward for that maximization. There are one cases where you could increase your DPM slightly more, but I would go with optics instead. But anyways, in this case, on the E50M, I don't have optics, I have vents. The E50M doesn't have great DPM, and so I want to improve that as much as I can. It's also kind of, well, it's not got a good camo value, and it's kind of slower compared to the others. So I want to improve its DPM and other things like that. It's going to be brawling most of the time anyway. It doesn't need the improved view range, in my opinion, especially because I already have chocolate, and the vents do help view range a little bit. And I also have BIA, situational awareness, and recon being trained, so I don't really need that added view range. Once you get past the max view range, it does help you defeat camo better, but still. So that's one medium, E50M. Most of my mediums have optics. Well, I suppose a lot of my mediums have. It really depends, actually. The Russian mediums I put optics on. Now, some people don't put optics, they put vents. Some very good players put vents on. Now, the reason they like that is because they just absolute max the DPM as much as possible. You have food, you have, you know, improved vents, you have BIA, everything you can do to basically improve the DPM If you have vents over optics on the 62A, you get a 0.1 increase on the reload. That's not a lot, and I don't think it's enough to warrant it. There are obviously other improvements vents do make, but I just don't think it's worth it. The gun is already incredible. You don't really need, improved aim time or anything like that. I just don't think it's worth it. I would go with the optics. It gives you more flexibility. You can get map control. They have great camo, so you can sit in a bush and outspot things. So, I mean, you get extra DPM out of games anyway just because of the fact that you have optics and you can spot more things, in my opinion. So, that's what I would go with. Vents isn't necessarily a bad choice, just my opinion. Here, autoloader, so it has both. No rammer. I can't put a rammer on autoloader. Now, with 410 view range tanks, I often like to do vents over optics just because it has extra. Most mediums, such as the Russian mediums, have 400 view range, STB1 410. So, does it need optics? Maybe you could put optics on it. I don't think it would be a bad choice. This one's probably the most iffy. When you get to 410, it's up to you. Like, for example, the Patton is 420 view range, so I don't really think you need optics. But again, it's up to you. Do what you think is best. There isn't really a bad choice. 410 view range. I think this has optics. Yeah, 410. The reason I put optics on this is because the DPM is actually not bad on this tank, but also because I feel like I need something out of this tank, an added variant, and so increased view range on the 410. That's why reason I put optics on it, but it could also use vents. So again, this is just an iffy, but what you see standard is the rammer and the stabilizer. So if you always put those on, you're good. So that's mediums. Basically, heavies, you could put optics on heavies. The only heavy I have optics on, I think, at the moment is the 50B, which can't have a rammer. I could put a GLD on it if I wanted to, but I think a GLD is a waste because its aim time was buffed enough that I don't think it's worth it. Whereas the 57, which aim time was nerfed, I feel does actually need the GLD. Now, this one I have optics on, which is a bit of a weird choice because instead you could put vents on it over the optics. I wouldn't take the GLD off this tank in particular. But I was just sort of more testing it out than anything else. Just to help the 57 out. Just want to see basically whether it was worth it or not. I'm still sort of iffy on that. I would probably put vents on it if I were you, but E5, I have this setup. I did once have optics instead of vents. I mean, it's up to you. But the point is that you probably should have any sort of variant of this where you have either this or optics, and it's definitely the rammer and the stabilizer. So let's go to just a different tank. Oh, actually, before I do that, some people like GLD on the E100. I don't think it's worth it. You're not moving a great deal of the time when you're firing anyways. So your reticle actually isn't that big after you already have a stabilizer and everything else. It's one of the better big guns in the game, actually, in terms of what you can hit with it. A lot of the times you're really close quarter, so I don't think it needs the GLD in my opinion. The other option people put in this is the super heavy spall liner. I don't like that. I think it's a waste of a slot. The super heavy spall liner is 1,500 kilograms. It's really heavy compared to, let's just say, a stabilizer, which is 200. So you're adding extra weight to the vehicle, and it already has side skirts. I don't really think the super heavy spall liner is worth it. And the GLD I don't think is worth it. So that's that. But let's just quickly go to TD. Here's a Waffle E100, so you got an auto-loading TD. Can't load a rammer. There isn't actually a great deal you can put on this. You can't put a stabilizer on it, and you can't put vents on it. So I have put a super heavy spall liner on this, just to help it protect it from RD splash and other things like that. I put a GLD on it. That's the only one there definitely needs to be on it. BINOCS, I guess, are good. You could maybe put a toolbox on it. This is one of the more iffy ones just because it can't really use a great deal. A normal TD, like Jagdpanzer 100 here, I have rammer, GLD, vents. That's pretty standard for this kind of big tank. But let me just quickly go to my retired 268. This one I have the same. You could put a BINOCS over the vents if you wanted to, especially with the nerfed view range, 370 now. I think personally, most of the time in a TD, you're either sat in a bush with other people spotting and things like that. I think you need the improved performance, especially after the nerfs to the tank. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, with light tanks, it's you don't really need a camo net unless you're really poor. I prefer optics and stabilizer and rammer, but again, you could do some variation of that for specific mission doing. My RE251 has both optics and BINOCS and drops the stabilizer, so which means it's losing an ability to fight but gains an extra ability to spot. It's got two-dimensional spotting ability in terms of it can passive really well as also active with the optics. They don't stack, so obviously you're doing one or the other and you're getting one advantage over the other. So make sure that you don't put two on and think that they're going to stack, because they don't. So this is a fighting medium setup. If I was playing a tournament and it was a close quarter map, which is like mines, I would probably put fence over optics because it doesn't really need optics on something like that. But most maps, standard pubbing, I would put that kind of setup for a light. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit long-winded, but I hope you got something out of it. It's really important that you make sure you get the equipment correct on tanks, because it's so important to be able to maximize your tank's ability and to get it right. And it's one of those things that, yes, I know it's expensive when you have to buy equipment and you're only just starting to get your first high tiers, but you will get so much more out of those tanks. And if you do decide to, let's say, just get a premium even, you will maximize your credit. That's not a premium, that's an IS3. Oh, a sexy IS3 though. HD, so good. You do decide to buy a premium, you will get so much more out of that tank once you start putting modules on it. I know it's expensive, but it's so much better for the tank. In the long run, you will be making money off of those modules, or equipment rather. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. This has been basically just another guide, just like the settings guide. If you needed guides on anything else, I will be doing tank reviews, more stuff like that as well, but this is more like in-game stuff, quick stuff. Well, quick, I say this is like a 12-minute video, but relatively quick stuff that I can go over and review and give you in-depth analysis that doesn't actually involve how the tanks play. So for example, crew skills or anything like that. If anyone needs any of that stuff, do let me know in the comment section. And yeah, peace.